as well. So what I'm going to go over first is the new stuff that we have been going over. All right. So that, hey, Kanaya, welcome. All right. So this is the stuff what we're about to go over that if you're finished and caught up with checkpoints 1 and 2, you can be working on this stuff. And then after we go over this new stuff for checkpoint 3, if you're still behind on checkpoints 1 and 2, I'll briefly review what you're doing for them as well. And that way, that should give everybody something they know they can be working on. Whether you're so if you're caught up on checkpoints 1 and 2, um, you know what you need to do next. If you're still behind, you get a little review of what you need to do to catch up. And then if you're asking me, the best way I would say to prioritize stuff is to do the new stuff first. So the stuff that we're doing for checkpoint 3 and get that done and out of the way. And then go back and catch up with checkpoints 1 and 2. Whether it's later today in the summit lab, tomorrow during mentoring, and so that way, once you get caught up on those, you'll already have the new stuff done, and then you'll be all caught up and ready to go. Okay. So we are recording. I'm going to share my screen here. If you are at your computer right now and you can access Summit, feel free to pull it up and follow along. All right. If you're not, you can always screenshot stuff, um, or whatever helps. All right. Because everything we are doing is on Summit. So you want to find our class, Creative Writing for Term 4. And then What is Love is the project, right? And now, like I said, the new stuff that we're working on is all under checkpoint 3, which says Art Piece Proposal, which you should all have assigned to you. So what you're going to look at for this is not the checkpoint first, but you're going to scroll down and you'll see the first link here says Art Proposal Brainstorm. And what you want to do is click that, and it should bring you to a page that looks like this. All right. And remember, the whole basis of this project is all about, the ways that we write about love. How do we define love? How do we, um, express our thoughts and feelings about it? Because that's what creative writing is all about, is different ways and different mediums in which to express ideas about things. And we've read two short stories already, My Life with the Wave and The Gift of the Magi, where we saw different ways that those authors expressed their thoughts and feelings about love. Okay. So now we're going to start to think about how can we, each of us individually, do the same thing, whether it's through um, a story, a poem, a song, a rap, a drawing, a picture, anything like that. And so this brainstorm activity is going to kind of help us flesh out some of those ideas to figure out ultimately what is the art form, the art piece we're going to use for our final product, which we're going to start digging into next week. Okay. And so what you're doing for this is just kind of filling out the box based on what it's asking you. Over here on this side, you can get as detailed as you want, right? And again, you're finding this on Summit under checkpoint 3, right? And then you scroll down and you're looking for art proposal brainstorm right here. Okay. And again, you're just kind of following the prompt. So, like, for example, the first one says, "What do you think about love?" Right, for a minute straight without stopping. So you would just type it. Oop, not there, but right in here to this box. Right? And then just keep following through. Write as many synonyms or words that mean the same as love. Write as many antonyms, which would be the opposite. What have other people told you about love? And you're just filling all that stuff out. Right? What are colors that represent love? What are symbols that represent love? If you're stumped on this, think about everything you see on Valentine's Day, right? We got hearts, teddy bears, things like that. What are other symbols that you think represent love? If love was food, it would be what? Right? And then you're kind of filling all of these out, right? And then this is going to hopefully help you to be able to fill out this box, which is where you're giving me your general message about love. So, if you're thinking about what is going to kind of be the theme or the message of your art piece for the final product about love, that's what you're going to type here into this box. Right, and then the next part focuses on figurative language, which is something we've talked about a little bit, and the way that we kind of get descriptive about expressing those ideas about love. So you're going to try and come up with one different example of each of these types of figurative language about love, right? So real quick, just going through these to kind of jog everybody's memory. First one says write a metaphor about love. Can anybody give us their best definition of a metaphor? Remind us what a metaphor is or does, because we can't write one of these if we don't know what the figurative language is. So let's just review these real quick. So a metaphor does what? Can anybody help us out? Put it in the chat. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me again. It is a figure of speech, yes, Emma, but what specifically are you doing in that figure of speech when you're using a metaphor? All right. If you can't remember, here's a good way to help us out, because this is one that most of us remember. What does a simile do? Or what is a simile? Do we remember that one? And again, you can tell us in the chat or coming off mute. However you want to help us out. But if we're unsure of metaphor, let's go down to simile. What does a simile do? Any thoughts on that one? What do you think? Shadi, I know you know a couple of these from other times in the class. Comparing one thing to another, different kind. Yes, definitely comparing one thing to another. And a simile uses two specific words when it makes that comparison. Do we remember what those two words are? For it to be a simile, it has to be one of two words. Like and as is correct, Shadi. Thank you very much. Great way to remember simile is we hear these all the time in rap and hip hop lyrics, right? When they're comparing themselves to a different celebrity or athlete or historical person, right? Those are all similes. So simile uses like or as to compare things. A metaphor compares things and doesn't use like or as, right? So, okay, if I was writing these now, write a metaphor about love. So I could say, love is a golden sunset, right? I'm not using like or as, but I'm still comparing love with what? What am I comparing it to here in this sentence? What's love being compared with in this sentence I have right here?
Say that again.
I'm saying if this sentence I just wrote as an example that I have shared on my screen, what am I comparing love with?
A sunset.
Yeah, definitely. So that's my comparison there, right? For a metaphor. And if it was a simile, I would say, love is like a golden sunset, right? Or I could do something different. Love is like, your favorite dessert every night, something like that. Okay. And
What
again,
checkpoint is this on, V?
that's what I was just gonna say, man. So you're on Summit and you're on checkpoint 3, and then you want to scroll down. So don't click the actual checkpoint first. Scroll down, and then you'll see Art Proposal Brainstorm right here under Resources. And then if you click that, it'll bring you to this page.
Go look.
So we got simile metaphor. Thank you very much. All right. Next one is personification. So we're writing an example of personification about love. Now we already saw personification in one of the short stories we read. So what's our best definition for personification? Do we remember that? What that kind of figurative speech does, or figurative language, I should say. The class code. Shadi, I will put the code in the chat for you. I don't know if it will still work because we're a little later into the term, but you can definitely try it and see. If it doesn't work, then you'll have to email Miss Christina and ask her for a new one. But I will put the one I have in the chat for you. In the meantime, can anybody give us their best definition of personification? What are we doing when we're using personification? Do we remember? All right, so Shad, I just put the code in a private chat to you. The rest of us, what do we think about for personification? You are very welcome. Right? If you were with us in class when we read that short story, My Life with the Wave, that was a really good example of personification. So what are you doing when you're using personification?
I put it in the chat.
Oh, okay, let's see. Give a non-human object human characteristics. Yes, spot on. Excuse me, thank you. I was gonna say another famous example would be Toy Story, right? So yeah, when you give something that's not human, human characteristics. And the way I always remember is if I look at the word personification, right? What smaller word do I see inside person? So that kind of reminds me, okay, yeah, things that a person does, I'm giving to something that's not a person, like an object or an animal, right? Or a plant, things like that. So write an example of personification about love. Any example from My Life with the Wave would be really good. So if I said, the wave kissed uh, and hugged me all night, right? Or something like that. That'd be personification,
You
right?
heard me?
Because I'm giving. I did read it, yes. Because
No, copy this down.
oop, I may have frozen. Hang on.
V, I don't even know where we at.
Sorry about that, y'all. My Wi-Fi has been acting weird lately. I got my screen going again. All right, we were doing a good job with this. So the next one is hyperbole. So what is our best definition for a hyperbole? Can we put it in the chat? If you want to copy down what I'm doing on the checkpoint for this section, that is fine. Yes, Ahmad, good question.
All right.
And the rest, if any of the rest of you also have the checkpoint pulled up, feel free to do the same.
I don't have the checkpoint pulled up. I asked you a couple times.
Oh, you asked me which one it was?
Yeah.
Oh, I did say it at least once, but I'll show you again real quick, Tyson. Sorry about that. So if you are on the main page for the class and summit, you're clicking on checkpoint 3 right here, art piece proposal, but then don't click on the checkpoint yet. Scroll down and you want to find the first link that says art proposal brainstorm and click that, and then it'll bring you to this page. And that's where we're working from here. My bad if I didn't see that in the chat. All right. So we have these first 3 done: metaphor, simile. Right? We know metaphor compares things without, like, or as. Simile compares things with, like, or as, like we have here. Right? Personification. We're giving human things to a non-human object. So hyperbole is our next one. What's our best definition for a hyperbole? What do we think? An example of a regular hyperbole could be like, oh, this thing weighs 1,000,000 pounds, or oh my God, it's 100 degrees outside, or 1,000 degrees outside, I should say. It's really hot. So what are we doing when we're using a hyperbole? Yes, Ahmad, you are exactly right. We are exaggerating, extreme exaggerating to prove a point, right? So if we have to write one of these about love, maybe I could say, a broken heart is like, 1,000 tiny daggers. Right? Because we know we're not literally getting stabbed by 1,000 tiny daggers, but when we break up with someone or we have a broken heart, sometimes it can feel like that. All right. And what other type of figurative language would this also be? If you look at some of the specific words I'm using here, this kind of doubles as another type of figurative language that we've already talked about. Which one would it also be?
A simile, right? Or a metaphor?
Which one?
Um,
Think about
a simile.
the words I use.
A simile.
Yes, because it has like in it. So we're comparing things using like or as. Good job. All right. So that would be our hyperbole. Understatement. This one is a little trickier, but understatement, you've heard this, before, I'm sure, is kind of something that, we're saying something that everybody already knows, as if it's like, we don't think that they would know it. So an understatement about love could be like, love is hard. It's one of those things where you read it and you think like, of course, duh, everybody knows that. That's kind of like an understatement. Right? Because we already know love is hard. We want to get even more specific, right? So that would be an understatement about love, right? The last two here. Now, if you can't follow along with this right now, or you have your own that you want to come up with, that's fine too. But you can use all of mine. These are all good examples, all right? And then second to last one here says, write an idiom, an expression, or a saying about love. Well, we are joined by our celebrity guests again. Write an idiom, an expression, or saying about love. So an idiom is kind of just like it says in the parentheses there. A saying or expression that may not make sense, literally the way it's written, kind of know, what it means. You guys use idioms all the times. So earlier, Tyseem said, "Keep it a Benji." That's an idiom. If you say, "Why are you out of pocket right now?" That's an idiom. We could also even call those something even more specific, which are colloquialisms, because only people from the Philly area say that. It's kind of like a local thing. But more,
It's like
oh, go ahead, Kanaya.
um yeah, like an expression or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's raining cats or dogs or something like that.
Yeah. So if we were doing one of these, if we were coming up with one of these about love, maybe we would say, you know, love is blind. Okay. So, like I said, when we read that literally, it doesn't really make sense because love can't see. It's not a person. It can't literally be blind. But when we hear that, we know it means like, okay, what a person looks like doesn't matter. If you're attracted or if you love that person, then you have a connection, right? That would be an example of an idiom, right? Can anybody think of another one of these that they've heard? Um, you know, or give us another example real quick, if you can. Anything else come to mind? Take another like 30 seconds. And if not, that's okay. Don't beat around the bush. That's a good one, Ahmad. I like that one. And you kind of gave us the definition along with it too, right? If we just say don't beat around the bush, again, if we take it just literally as it's written, it's kind of confusing, right? Was there a bush? Is something happening? But we know when we hear it, it means just say what you really mean. Just get to the point. That's a good one. Good job. Anyone else? Kanaya, Shad, Tyseem, any other examples? All right, no worries. So the last one here then for the figurative language part says create your own symbol for love and explain it here. Now this one I'm going to leave blank. I'll let you guys come up with your own. But when we talk about symbols, again, we've seen a lot of these in the short stories we've um, read already. My Life with the Wave, the wave was a symbol for, a woman or a relationship. Um, in the Gift of the Magi, her hair, and his watch symbolize, important possessions that they kind of sacrifice, right? Because they care about the other person. So think of your own symbol, an object, a place, something that represents something a little bit bigger, a bigger idea, a bigger theme, bigger message, about love, and come up with that, put it in this box here. All right. But the rest of these, feel free to copy down. I'll leave it up here for about another minute if you still need to. Excuse me. All right. So after you finish this chart, what you're going to do in this box is come up with, okay, in my own, art piece that I'm going to do for the final project, which kinds of figurative language, do I think I'm going to use? Do I think will suit me best? And then put them in this box. All right. And then the last two things on here is kind of like a rating system. So the first chart, you're ranking from 0 to 5 how much you enjoy consuming each of these. So watching, viewing. So how much do you enjoy watching dance videos? Like if you watch a lot of dance TikToks or stuff on YouTube, right? 0 to 5. Same thing with drawing. How much do you enjoy consuming music? So like this one would be a 5 for me because I love listening to music. I listen to music every day, right? Painting, photography, okay, stuff like that. 0 to 5 for this whole chart, right? And then the second chart, you're again ranking 0 to 5, but this time it's how much do you enjoy actually doing or creating these things. So if you enjoy dancing yourself, right, maybe this is a 4 or 5. If you enjoy drawing or playing music, anything like that. So you're doing that for this chart as well, 0 to 5. And then the last box you're filling out here is, based on all of that, which of these do you think you're most likely going to use for your final project? Which of these, art forms are you going to come up with a dance? Are you going to, do something with music, maybe write a rap or a song? Are you going to, write poetry, take a picture, use photography? Whatever you're going to do, tell me here and tell me why you think you're going to choose that piece. Okay. Once you fill this whole thing out, then you can't submit it because it's not part of the checkpoint, but I will be able to go in and check that you've done it. And it'll also make filling out the checkpoint much, much easier if you do this one first. Okay. So that's my general PSA about that. So once you fill this brainstorm out, then you can go back to Summit. Okay. Right here. And click on the actual checkpoint for checkpoint 3, which says art piece proposal. And it'll look like this. And here you're just kind of filling in these 3 boxes, outlining basically what you're going to do for your art piece for your final project. Okay. And the directions on here are all very kind of self-explanatory about that. Right. And then this is what you're going to request feedback for. So I'm going to be looking for those 2 things, right? The art proposal brainstorm and checkpoint 3, the art proposal, which again are both on Summit. Here's the checkpoint, here's the brainstorm. Right? I'm going to be looking for those for the last progress report, which again, the stuff is due on Friday, at the very latest Monday. Okay, that's what I'll be looking for those. Questions about any of that stuff at this time? All right, Ahmad, I did respond to you in the chat. Any other questions again about where to find the checkpoint, what we're doing, anything like that? And again, we are recording here, so this will be up on the Yes Philly YouTube later today as well. If you missed anything, you can go back and check it out there again. All right, so if there's no other questions, then what we'll do real quick is a brief review of what you're doing for checkpoints 1 and 2 as well, because I know some of us are still behind on those. So checkpoints 1 and 2, both very similar. They both utilize a short story, and then from the short story, you're filling out, questions or activities about it. So checkpoint 1 is using Gift of the Magi. You can access the story right on Summit. If you scroll down, you'll see it says Gift of the Magi text, and you click that link, and it'll bring you to the story. Okay. And then you click on the checkpoint, and it looks like this. You're doing 2 things. You're filling out this chart, right? So here's a symbol from the story on this side. What does this symbol mean? What's its significance? That's what you're telling me on this side. And then you're filling in the blanks down here. Here's a problem that arises in the story, right? Della doesn't have enough money to buy Jim a present for Christmas. What is her solution? What does she do to solve that problem? And then do the same thing here for Jim. And now what's the new problem they have? And what's their new solution? Okay. and then you're done, right? Similarly, checkpoint 2, you're also using a story. If you scroll down, you can find it on Summit right here. My Life with the Wave text. You click that. Here's the story, right? And then you click on the checkpoint again. Excuse me. Two things to do. First part is matching. Now I know on yours, this formatting might be a little different. So if the line is underneath, right, then it goes along with the stuff that is right above it. All right. I know sometimes the formatting gets weird on Summit. So you're looking at the key down here, looking at all of these elements, and then matching them to the best definition up here. So the first one is Octavio Paz. I look at the box and I think, okay, which of these best describes who or what Octavio Paz is? And then I put that letter on the line right here. Okay. And then second part is just 3 open-ended questions. So you're responding to these in your own words, in complete sentences. All right. Best way to get caught up on checkpoints 1 and 2, excuse me, is to go back and watch some of the YouTube recordings of previous classes where I read through the story, go over how to do some of the checkpoint as an example, and kind of talk about the story, especially with checkpoint 2. Though I would start there, those will make it a little bit easier. If you're somebody who doesn't mind reading on your own, then you can just read through the story yourself and try to answer the checkpoint. If you know you might need a little help, then I would start with the YouTube videos. And then if you're still stuck, you can always come see me in the Summit Labs in the afternoon from 1 to 3. And again, remember, it's the same link that we use for this class. Okay? Questions about any of that stuff? Excuse me. All right, y'all. So we have about 10 minutes left. I'm gonna give you guys that time to work on stuff. Again, my recommendation is to get the checkpoint 3 stuff done first, the brainstorm, and then the checkpoint. Do the brainstorm first. Again, you can find the brainstorm right underneath checkpoint 3 when you're looking on Summit. It's under resources. Just click that first one. Then once you finish that, if you're still behind on stuff, go back and finish up checkpoints 1 and or 2. So I will be here in the chat on mute if you have questions. Don't be afraid to give me a shout if you're stumped with anything, and we'll wrap it up in about 10 minutes, okay? So when we meet again on Thursday, we're going to look at a couple examples of pieces of art about love and kind of talk about them, brainstorm about them a little bit to give us some ideas for our final product. And then it'll just be more time to get this stuff finished. Because again, on the progress report that's coming out next week, I'm looking for checkpoint 3 and the checkpoint 3 brainstorm. All right, so take about 10 minutes and try and work on this stuff. I will be here on mute. If you have a question, don't be afraid to ask. You know, if you're still working on stuff, we'll take about another minute and or two, and then we'll wrap up here. A really good job today. All right, Ahmad, we can go ahead and wrap up here. Really good job today. Again, make sure you're working on the checkpoint 3 stuff because I think you're caught up with the other two. And
I'm
then,
done. I'm about to send to you right now.
oh, cool. All right, so I'll make sure I check that out.
All
Right. Then I will see you on Friday or tomorrow in mentoring. All right, good job.
right. I see you, V.
I see you. Good job.
All right.